Good morning. Today we're going over the Mystical Qabalah once again. Ironically, I just got done reading this, and now I have to do it again because I didn't get the green screen up, and so I had a floating printer right here on this side. So this is round 2 of reading it. We were on chapter 3, the Unwritten Qabalah, and so yeah, we will get to that. And as usual, welcome to the Arcanum Luminarium. Alrighty. Chapter 3, the Unwritten Qabalah. And this one, we're probably only going to get about halfway through this chapter based on how it went the first time when I read it, because it got a little long. So, we're going to do half the chapter today and then the other half tomorrow. So, let us begin. The point of view from which I approach the Holy Qabalah in these pages differs so far as I know from that of other writers on the subject. For to me it is a living system of spiritual development, not a historical curiosity. Few people, even among those interested in occultism, realize that there is an active esoteric tradition in our midst, handed down in private manuscripts and by mouth to ear. Still fewer know that it is the Holy Qabalah, the mystical system of Israel, which forms its basis. But where may we look for more aptly for our occult inspiration than to the traditions which gave us the Christ? The interpretation of the Qabalah is not to be found, however, among the rabbis of the outer Israel, who are Hebrews after the flesh, but among those who are the chosen people after the Spirit, in other words, the initiates. Neither is the Qabalah, as I have learned it, a purely Hebraic system, for it has been supplemented during medieval times by much alchemical lore and by intimate association with it of that most marvelous system of symbolism, the tarot. In my presentation of the subject, therefore, I do not appeal so much to the tradition in support of my view as to modern practice among those who make use of the Qabalah as their method of occult technique. It may be alleged against me that the ancient rabbis knew nothing of some of the concepts here set forth. To this I reply that it is hardly to be expected that they should, as these things were not known in their day, but are the work of their successors of the spiritual Israel. For my part, although I would not willingly mislead anyone concerning the teachings of those of ancient days, and upon matters of historical accuracy stand subject to correction from any who are better informed than I am in these matters, and their name is Legion. I care not one jot for the authority of tradition, if it hampers the free development of a system of such practical value as the Holy Qabalah, and I use the work of my predecessors as a quarry, whence I fetched the stone to build my city. Neither am I limited to this quarry by any ordinance that I know of, but fetch also cedar from Lebanon and gold from Ophir, if it suits my purpose. Let it be clearly understood, therefore, that I do not say, this is the teachings of the ancient rabbis. Rather do I say, this is the practice of the modern Kabbalist, and for us a much more vital matter, for it is a practical system of spiritual unfoldment. It is the Yoga of the West. Having thus guarded myself as far as possible against blame from not having done what I have undertook to do, let me define my own position in the matter of scholarship and general qualification for the task at hand. So far as actual scholarship goes, I am in the same class as William Shakespeare, having little Latin and less Greek, and of Hebrew only that particular portion which is cultivated by occultists. The ability to transliterate unappointed Hebrew script from the purpose of the geometric calculations of any knowledge of Hebrew as a language, I am guiltless. Whether such frank acknowledgments of the deficiencies will serve to disarm criticism, I do not know. No doubt it will be alleged against me, and not without justification, that one so ill-equipped should not have undertaken the task at all. To this I reply that if one saw a man dying injured, should the admitted absence of a medical qualified bar one from going in to assist and give him what help one could, pending the arrival of qualified attention? My work upon the Qabalah is of the nature of first aid. I find an invaluable system lying neglected, and ill qualified for the task as I may be. I am striving to draw attention to its possibilities and to restore to its proper place as the key to the Western occultism, and it is my chief hope in so doing that it may attract the attention of scholars, and that they will continue the task of translation and investigation of the Kabbalistic manuscripts, which are as of yet a vein of which only the outcroppings have been worked. One qualification for my task I can plead in justification, however. For the last 10 years I have lived and moved and had my being in the practical Qabalah. I have used its methods both subjectively and objectively till they have become a part of myself, and I know from experience what they yield in psychic and spiritual results, in their incalculable value as a method of using the mind. It is not required of those who would use the Qabalah as their yoga that they should acquire any extensive knowledge of the Hebrew language. All they need to be able to do is read and write Hebrew characters. The modern Qabalah has pretty thoroughly naturalized in the English language, but it retains and must ever retain all its words of power in Hebrew, which is the sacred language of the West, just as Sanskrit is the sacred language of the East. There are those who have objected to the free employment of Sanskrit terms in occult literature, and no doubt they will object more strongly to the employment of Hebrew characters, but their use is unavoidable, for every letter in Hebrew is also a number, and the numbers to which words add up are not only an important clue to their significance, but also can be used to express the relationship between different ideas and potencies. According to MacGregor Mathers in the admirable essay which forms the introduction to his book, the Qabalah is usually classed under 4 heads. First, the practical Qabalah, which deals with talismanic and ceremonial magic. 2, the dogmatic Qabalah, which consists of the Kabbalistic literature. 3, the literal Qabalah, which deals with the use of letters and numbers. And 4, the unwritten Qabalah, which consists of a correct knowledge of the manner in which the symbol systems are arranged on the tree of life, and concerned which MacGregor Mathers says, in quote, I may say no more on this point, not even whether I myself have or have not received it, end quote. But as this portentous hint is elaborated by the late Miss MacGregor Mathers in her introduction to the new edition of his book in the following plain-spoken words, quote, simultaneously with the publication of the Qabalah in 1887, he received instructions from his occult teacher to prepare what eventually to become his esoteric school, end quote. It may be justifiable to say that if he did receive the unwritten Qabalah, it has been for some years ceased to be unwritten. For after a quarrel with MacGregor Mathers, Aleister Crowley, the well-known author and scholar, published the lot. His books are now rare and hard to come by, and being much valued by the more scholarly or esotericists. Their price has gone up out of sight, and they seldom come in the second-hand book market. Thankfully, that's a little different now, although some of them are still pretty tricky. The breaking of an initiation oath is a serious matter, and a thing that I, for my part, do not care to do, but I admit of no authority that debars me from collecting and collating all available materials that has been published upon any subject, and interpreting it according to the best of my understanding. In these pages, it is the system given by Crowley of which I shall avail myself to supplement the point which MacGregor Mathers, Wynne Westcott, and A.E. Waite, the principal modern authorities upon Qabalah, are silent. As to whether I myself have received any knowledge of the unwritten Qabalah, it would as ill beseem me as MacGregor Mathers to be explicit upon this point, and having followed his classic example of burying my head in the sand and waving my tail, I will return to my consideration of the matters at hand. The essence of the unwritten Qabalah lies in the knowledge of the order in which certain sets of symbols arranged upon the tree of life, the tree, Achim, consists of the 10 holy Sephiroth arranged in a particular pattern and connected by lines which are called the 32 paths of the Sefer Yetzirah, or divine emanations. And you can see the Sefer Yetzirah by Wynne Westcott. Here there exists one of the blinds or traps for the uninitiated in which the ancient rabbis delight. We find, if we count them, that there are 22, not 32 paths upon the tree. But for their purpose, the rabbis treated the 10 Sephiroth themselves as paths, thus misleading the uninitiated. Thus, the first 10 paths of the Sephirot Zera are assigned to the 10 Sephiroth, and the following 22 to the actual paths themselves. It will then be seen how the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet can be associated with the paths without discrepancy or overlap. With them also are associated the 22 tarot trumps, the Atus, or the abodes of Thoth. Concerning the tarot cards, there are 3 modern authorities of note. Dr. Incausius, or Papus, the French writer Mr. A. E. Waite, and the MSS of MacGregor Mather's Order of the Golden Dawn, which Crowley published upon his own authority. All 3 are different concerning the systems. Mr. Waite he himself says there is another method known to initiates. There is a reason to suppose that this is the method used by Mathers. Papus disagrees with both of these writers in his method, but as his system does violence to many of the correspondence which placed upon the tree the final test of all systems, and as Mathers' Crowley system fits admirably, I think we may justly conclude that the latter is the correct tradition order, and I propose to adhere to it in these pages. And that is as far as we're going to go today. That's halfway through the chapter, and we're already at well over 10 minutes, so yeah, we will stop there. I hope you're enjoying these readings. I sure am. It's kind of fun going through this again. It's been so long. But, yeah. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you tomorrow.